Hello, my crafty friends. It's Michelle, the Southern Shell, and I am here with a collaboration of the last thing thrifted. I went ahead and dug up a few of my favorite flips just for you. Let's meet our hosts. First, we have Jody at the Southern Seasons. We have Monica with Up All Night, Decor with Monica. We have Dawn with Shabby Meets Bling. We have Annie with Crafting with Indie Annie Jones. We have Shelly with Repurposed My Way. And Marika with Marika's Creations. These are all wonderful crafters. Please check out their channels in my description box below, along with the playlist of the other creators that are participating in this collaboration. Guys, I have some oldies here that I have done, and I'm going to share a few of my favorite flips with you. So I take his cans and I clean them up. I just make sure that, any oils and stuff are off of them. So I'll spray them down with some Windex and clean them up. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to take some masking tape here and I am going to just tape all the way around the edge, which is going to help keep that lid on securely. Now I'm going to cover these with clay, so it doesn't matter too much about it. It should seal this in where that lid's not going to come off. But I just wanted a little bit of extra security. Because the can is plastic and metal, I'm coming in with my matte Mod Podge and I am doing a coat all over front, back, and sides of these cans. This is going to help give me a better surface to have the clay adhere to. So now I am taking, this is actually my Sculpty. This is my Sculpty air dry clay. And I'm just taking it and I condition it in my hands a little bit. And I'm pressing it all the way around the edges of the top and the bottom of the can itself. 6 of these cans, no, I did five each. I did 5 cans as a snowman and 5 cans as gingerbread. And so the white are going to be our snowman, and I'm just going to continue to cover 5 cans. And when those are all covered, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just dampen my fingers here and smooth out the edges and any areas on this clay just to make sure I've got a more smooth surface. This will eliminate heavy sanding after they're dry. I have some dried powdered clay. Now this is stuff that I've saved from prior air dry clay projects. And I am just using a little bit of water and I'm mixing that into that and I'm creating a slip. They call that a slip, and it's just your powdered dried clay mixed with water. And this will come back in and it will fill any little cracks. Now you don't want it too thick because if they're bigger cracks, you're going to want to use clay itself. But because these are just little tiny cracks, this slip works perfectly. I just use my finger and I rub it into the little cracks on these little now snowman heads. And I just rub it in and continue to look at each of the pieces, making sure I have them covered with the slip where there are any cracks showing. Once that slip is dry, I went ahead and gave it a brief sand just to smooth out the edges. Came in with my Waverly Snow White, perfect color for snowman heads, and covered the front and back and the sides all the way around with that snow white paint. I then came back in and pounced with a sponge. This gave me texture, which I think turned out adorable. So now I'm going to use the end of that sponge and I'm creating some little dots for the mouth and for the eyes. And I'm putting the closer together I put the eyes, the more cutesy, whatever you want to call it, the snowman faces turn out. I think these turned out adorable. I really like, I just kind of just played and I did different faces on each one to give it a little bit of something. I have a very, very fine paintbrush here. And I thought I was just going to draw a mouth on this one. And I think it turned out so cute. So very gently, very little paint on my paintbrush. And then I'm just going to come in and I created just a little sleepy eyes on that one. All right, so this one I'm going to come the other direction. And as you're pulling your paintbrush forward towards the end of the nose, you can lift a little bit and that's going to create the skinnier end. Look how easy this is though. So on the little piece down there, I took some of that outrageous orange and I added a little bit of the Waverly. I think I used the hazelnut to that just to add a little bit more dimension. And I also added some of the chocolate sprinkle. Not a lot, but enough that you can find some dimension here in the crevices of our carrot nose as I'm adding that in there. It's just going to create dimension there. You go from a flat orange and I'm just doing some curves where the carrots would have some natural ridges. Once I get those noses all added with definition, I'm coming in with Waverly chalk paint in Pink Cloud. This is the lighter one, and these make the perfect cheek colors. Oh my goodness, look, these are just coming together. Now you can see on the faces that I came back in and added the lines and the nose a little bit more there. I have these tiny little top hats. And what I did is I used my hot glue gun to soften the tops. And then I used an X-Acto blade just to cut the little hole in the top of it. I'm taking these little miniature ornaments that I have here, and I'm taking the little spring tops off of them. And I added them to the holes to the top of the hats. So I'm going to come in with my Beacons 3-in-1, and now I'm going to glue that top hat on top of these snowmen with that ornament hook popping on through that top hat there. So I was just able to glue these on down, and you want to set them aside and let them totally dry. So now I'm going to go ahead and pull some ribbon out. And first thing I want to do is make some scarves. And I went ahead and went with this 3/4 inch black ribbon because I thought this would make the perfect little accent to that black hat. I folded in the middle and hot glued it down together in the middle, just that middle part, and then wrapped it around the back of that snowman head. Once I got that to the back, I hot glued and brought it around the front, looping that and then singeing the ends of that ribbon to create, so it kind of melts that ribbon so it will not fray. Look at how cute these are turning out. Oh my gosh, I know. I get so excited. I just think they turned out adorable. Okay, so for the other five, I went ahead and covered them with my Waverly chalk paint in hazelnut. Once that was all done and dried, I'm going to come in and start on my gingerbread faces. So here you can see I just had a white paint pen. It's just a white marker, not a paint pen, but a white marker. And I went around this. I think I did go over it 3 times by the time I was done because I just wanted it to be a little brighter white to outline the face of our gingerbread. Now with the gingerbread, I was smart and I started with the cheeks. I have my pink cloud and the little sponge pouncer, and I'm going to come in and put my cheeks on before I do anything else with my gingerbread. So I'm going to come in with each one and put rosy cheeks on each of my 5 gingerbread faces. Once I was done with those little cheeks, I got the end of my sponge dauber there and right into my DIY little black dress, and in comes the little eyes. Like I said with the snowmen, the closer they are, the more cute this will appear. The further apart they are, it tends to be a little scary. So you get cute or scary. So I liked them really close together for the cutesy part. And now I can just come on in and paint those faces on there, the mouths and so forth. Now I have the Coral Cowgirl, and this is what I'm going to use for the nose. It is darker than that sky pink cloud, and I think it's just enough to give some dimension, for that nose. I'm coming now in with my Swan White and that really small paintbrush again, and I'm going to add some little highlights to the eyes and to the cheeks. So I'm just going to add just a little bit there to the cheeks and to the eyes. And here I come in and add the little bit of white to the tips of the nose. And I came in with some 3/4 inch red ribbon this time, and this is going to wrap all the way around the outside of the gingerbread faces. I'm just going to take it, hot glue this down, and wrap the ribbon all the way around each one of these gingerbread heads. So I went ahead and took off 5 tops of those little miniature ornaments, and I'm cutting the wire down to fit just the inside of that little metal ornament top. And I think that'll fit just fine, so I'm going to trim it down and I'm going to come in and fill that with hot glue. Once the hot glue was set on the inside, I came back in and I hot glued the topper to the top of the ornament gingerbread head here. I went ahead and took some thinner red ribbon and tied that in place to hold these up on your tree, the little hangers. So I just trimmed that and I used my little lighter to melt the ends. Now I'm going to create some little bows and bow ties. So the little bows will be for the girls and the bow ties will be for the boys. Now I just made an awareness ribbon and then tied it together with that small ribbon. And then I can trim that off and use my lighter to melt those edges down. But then I come in and I just hot glue that either to the front for the little boy, like this is the little guy, he has no eyelashes. So I went ahead and put that down on the front. So I have this cute little brown ribbon with the white stitching. And I thought that the red ribbon, it just looked a little off to me. And so I'm like, well, I'm going to add the brown around the inside of that red just to add some more dimension to this. So that's what I did. I just hooked it on there with some hot glue, wrapped it all the way around, and brought it back up to the top and hot glued it back in place up on the other side of the hanger.
So, my crafty friends, there you have it. What do you think about these? I am loving the way these turned out. I still think the snowmen are my favorite. Which are yours? The gingerbread turned out adorable too. But those little snowmen, oh my goodness. This little one needs to be flipped back around. Look at there. Oh, how stinking cute. Guys, what do you think about my recycled crafting?
Project number 2 comes from an old pair of my husband's jeans. Nothing safe around my house.
Nothing is safe in my house. Oh my goodness. If it is ready to go in the garbage, for some reason, I just see something else in there. And I just hated throwing away all that denim material. So I just had to come up with something creative for Christmas. So I really love how these actually turn out in the end. Guys, this is Christmas in July, and I'm Michelle, the Southern Shell. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope that we can get crafty together and inspire each other through this journey. Oh, what a blast. So I went ahead and took the pockets that I cut out of my husband's old jeans, and the back part, I went ahead and sectioned that off as well, cut them in half, and I am going to create the wings for the back of my angel with the two pieces that I've cut off of these pockets. This, I wanted to make sure they were about the same size. I'm not using a pattern because I'm just using the pieces that I have left from this pocket. So I'm going to go ahead and just look at this and see what I need to do, how I need to cut it, and then I'm using the one piece to be a template so that I can cut the other pieces for the second pocket. So with the excess material that came off the back of this pocket, I'm going to go ahead and find the center and do an accordion fold on that one piece. I'm going to take some of my jute twine here and I'm going to tie a little knot and get that to secure against that little accordion. I want to make sure that it's in the middle so I don't have wonky wings because, we don't want wonky wings. I'm using a little tad bit of my Fabri-Tac, and that's going to actually hold my twine down against that little piece of denim now. Looks like a cute little denim bow, but these are going to be wings. I'm going to do the same thing with my second piece, and I want to make sure that they are about right in the center of both of those sections so that my wings are even. Once again, a little Fabri-Tac in there is going to hold that jute twine down as we get ready to put these two pieces together to create our set of wings for our first bucket. Once those are all secured, I'm now going to use my Fabri-Tac and I'm going to secure the two pieces together. I'm going to add another piece of my jute twine and my Fabri-Tac. I don't want this falling apart on us, guys. I want this to last as many years as it can. I'm going to go ahead and just tie that off in just a little knot and get that separated. I'm looking through my ribbons and I found this really cute, this beautiful rose gold ribbon. Now I went ahead and I took 5 of those roses and I cut them out to create little rose appliques for my recycled pocket. And I trimmed them out nicely, cutting any of the frayed edges. Used my Fabri-Tac with a nice coat all the way up to the edge of that applique. And I attached one to each corner of my wings for this angel. Once I got those done on the wings, I had one extra, which I put on the bottom of that pocket. You can see here I have a little piece that I cut out that was a little rose bud. So I wanted to make sure that that was going to be used on the other little corner of our pocket. So I want to go ahead and do a bit of an accordion fold on these pockets to create the tip of my angel head as well as the flowing angel body. And I just fiddled with this until I got the correct width that I wanted. And I'm sorry, I'm like at the very bottom of that frame. But once I did that, I held it together, and then I opened the front part and dabbed some Fabri-Tac in between those openings on the front so I could give that a nice squeeze together and create that little ruffle pleated, how about that little pleated pocket right there. Once I got that all on there, I was able to use some of my jute twine again, and I'm just using a small little piece here to hold that in place while that Fabri-Tac glue dries. Using another strand of my jute, I'm going to create a distance between both of my wings so that that will give us a nice area to actually glue the front of that angel onto those wings. So I tied my jute together, and then I wound it up going one direction, and then I pulled it back on over and wound it going the other, gave it a tie in the middle, and now we have a good base to add some more Fabri-Tac glue on that does not leave us a small area. It actually squeezes those wings up a little bit more and gives them more pleated definition, so I can add my pocket onto the front of those. Right like that. I think, look at how pretty that looks already. Just right onto the front of there, very rustic, but that gold lace just gives it a little bit of something and brings it to the next level. Adding my Fabri-Tac onto the back, making sure I go up in between some of those pleats, I'm going to go ahead and lay that onto the front of my wings. I'm going to press that down nicely and firmly, I should say, so that it will get a nice grip onto those wings. You see I'm pulling the edges of those pockets out and straightening them so it has a good flow. Some of those appliques didn't have the glue that went all the way out to the edge, so I did go ahead and make sure that all of those had the glue that they needed to keep them securely down. Now, using some of that braided jute ribbon, I'm going to create a hanger, and I just cut a section that was big enough for my pocket and did a little bit of some of that Fabri-Tac on the back, looped it around the front, and I used a little bit of that cut lace to cover and hold down onto the back of that angel head to give it some extra security, so that that ribbon is not going to pull off if it gets yanked on while it's on a tree. I went ahead and I was looking to see what I wanted around that little waistline, and that red was just too bright, but that braided jute cord was perfect. So cut a little piece of it, and I used my Fabri-Tac, covered all along the front, and then just laid it, wrapped it right around, and it fit perfect. Lay it on down there, hold it in place for a minute, because Fabri-Tac does take just a moment to grip, and then it lasts. Now for the halo, it's super simple. I just cut me off another length. Each of your pockets could be different depending on the size of the pants. And if you're using kids' pants or adult pants or your Papa Daddy's pants or whatever, you're going to have different size pockets. So use the length that you feel comfortable with in yours. I went ahead and folded that over and glued those sides together, and now I'm laying it in between where that lace was and the pocket itself. I folded it and I gave it a pinch with my fingers, and that ribbon just did great as a halo. I really wanted something that had a little bit more color. That gold is beautiful, but sometimes you need a little whimsy as well. I still have those two little pieces that I cut out that were very similar. So now I'm going to come in with this ribbon. I had gotten it off of Temu several years ago, and I'm just going to come in and I'm going to cut me some little sections out, and I'm going to cut out some peppermints, and I'm going to cut out a couple of those gingerbread men as well, and I'm going to use those as appliques for this particular angel. And of course, once I got the first one fussy cut it out, I just had to lay it on there and see how it's going to work and how it's going to look. Instead of cutting everything out at once, I just wanted to see how it was going to do. I was impatient, and I loved the way this was going, and so I just had to do it. Guys, you craft your way. I craft my way. Sometimes I'm just, it's by the seat of my pants. Let's cut and go. This is what I want. And if it turns out to be needed moved in the end, well, guess what? I was flighty when I did it the first time. But I love this. I think it turned out adorable. It just laid on there. That Fabri-Tac took that little piece of ribbon, and it worked great. So my wing pieces here, I went ahead and took one of the third one of my gingerbread men, and I glued it down to actually fit on both of those wing pieces because I wanted it to kind of be able to blend together, be pieced together like it wasn't a separate piece. And then of course I come in with some of these little peppermint pieces I trimmed out as well and added that Fabri-Tac on the back of there and placed those on the wings as well to give some balance to both sides of those. Now doing the same technique that I did on the rose ones, I'm just going to use my jute twine here and I'm going to tie up in the center of that accordion folded piece of denim to create that wing. I'm going to adjust, make sure it's right in the middle there so my wings aren't wonky. Don't want no wonky wings, guys. And I'm going to, of course, use that Fabri-Tac to glue that down and hold it together. And I'm going to do that with both of my pieces and get my wings together, just the same process that I did with the first angel. Once those wings were done and set aside, I'm going to come in and do the same thing with the pocket that I did with the first one. Add some of that Fabri-Tac and then do that accordion fold to create the flow of our little angel here with her body and her head. Of course, we want to do the same to the front to hold those pieces together. Just some Fabri-Tac in between each one of those folds. Hold it together and give it a nice squeeze as that Fabri-Tac is gripping and holding that denim together. Once we get that jute twine holding that body together again, I pulled out some red velvet ribbon and I thought that would be beautiful around the front of this particular angel. So I used my Fabri-Tac, went all the way around that jute, and I'm going to go ahead and lay that velvet ribbon right on in to that Fabri-Tac and trim off my extra and just glue that right on down there. Now I thought these turned out adorable, but I really wanted to add a little bit of face detail. So I took some embroidery floss that I've had, and I took a small crochet hook, and I'm just going to create some chains here. I'm going to create a chain of 5 for the gold one, and I ended up doing a chain of 3 for the red one. Chain of 3 for the gold would have been fine too, but I did end up trimming down the 5 afterwards. So just doing a little chain of 3 with this little tiny embroidery floss does not take much of anything. So once I did that, I went ahead and pulled it through and tightened off that little chain. And then I went ahead and glued them down using my Fabri-Tac onto the front of my angel. I went ahead and used the Fabri-Tac glue here, and on my red ones, I just laid them down just at a little angle, an angle for my angel. How about that? Once they were dried enough, I came right on in and trimmed off that extra little bit of my embroidery floss, and this isn't going to go anywhere. This isn't going to come undone. It's super cute, absolutely adorable. To create the mouth, I used a little extra of that red floss, rolled it up between my fingers, and glued it on down to the front of my angel. And there you have it. I'm going to trim that off. And didn't these turn out super cute? I love it. All right, you guys, here it is, my little pocket angels from my husband's old tour jeans. So project number 3, these were a flip from some tiny boxes that I had gotten from my mother from her old job. I got these boxes when my mom passed away. These were some that she had gotten for awards for being at the company for many years. And look at how grungy these boxes are. They have been through the mill, haven't they? So I just came in and I went ahead and sanded them really well and got all the funk off the front and off the sides and just cleaned them up the best I could. And then I came in with a damp cloth and I wiped them down. Once I get it all wiped down, I just wanted to make sure I had all that dust off of it. I set it aside and I let it dry. I had taken off the hinges and the closure because they were really yucky. They were just nasty. So I'm using some of this Power Wash by Dawn, and I'm using an old electric toothbrush that I use to clean like shower and grout and stuff like that. Look at how dirty just those 2 hinges were on that one. Oh my god. Go ahead and get some air dry clay into some of these molds here. Now my clay was a little harder than it normally is, so I did add a little bit of water to my hands as I manipulated it, and then I just fed it right on into this mold, put some water across the top, and then use my razor blade to smooth it out. You can see here, it just smooths nicely. Once you get that moisture on there, that air dry clay comes right back to life. Now I'm going to go ahead and pop these in the freezer for 30 minutes. Once they come out super easy, and here we have it. Now I'm going to go ahead and use some of my Tite Bond, quick and thick, put it on the back of those, and then lay it right on down on top. Now you see me putting it on the curved one. I changed that because that small piece fits perfectly in that other lid. So you see how I just switched that out, and I'm going to go ahead and put the larger piece on top of the curved lid. And I'm just going to rub that Tite Bond quick and thick, lay it on there, and then I'm going to put that other little piece that broke right on up next to it with some quick and thick. and that dries. I'm going to set them aside, and that's going to dry just perfect. No problems there. It's not going to have any issues. Now I'm going to come in with that dragonfly. I took a piece of tin foil, rolled it up to create a little arm, and put some cling wrap over it. Actually, that's press and seal. I wanted to make a little arm here so I could tilt my wings of my little dragonfly so that they weren't laying flat. I wanted them to be able to dry upwards a little bit. And to do that, I needed to have something under there that was not going to stick. So the piece right here, I'm going to go ahead and just glue that down to the back side of that lid, and that holds that right in place, no problem. And I'm going to come in here and just prop up my dragonfly and set it aside and let this dry. Once those are dry, I'm going to come on in and I'm going to give these a paint. I'm going to use my Waverly Chalk white paint, and I'm going to cover these boxes all over with a good coat of this white chalk paint. But I wanted to make sure it had a good coverage throughout the rest. Now I want to coat it with some Mod Podge to give it a good coating to keep it keep that chalk paint sealed in there. This is also going to give my air dry clay another coat of stabilizing, sealing that in there. It's going to help that dragonfly be stronger. Here I used my rice paper, and I found some dragonflies on creativefabrica.com, and I cut one out here to 2 inches, and I knew it would fit perfectly on top of that dragonfly clay mold that I had used. So now I'm just going to come in with some Mod Podge, and I'm going to lay that rice paper right on over that dragonfly, and it will look like I hand painted this little booger. And I didn't, because I don't have the steady hand. So shh, don't tell anybody. I knew the mold was 2 inches, so when I printed my dragonfly, I just sized it to the 2-inch mark, and then printed it on my rice paper from my inkjet printer, and then went ahead and trimmed that out and laid on. Look at how perfectly it just lays on there. It did not take much effort at all. You know, lift up your wing, lay down that glue, and then some glue right over the top, some Mod Podge right over the top of that. And oh my goodness, I really love the way this turned out. Added the rest of my little rice paper dragonflies all over this little box. I'm going to go ahead and lay it down. I'm going to come back in with my little razor blade, and I'm going to slice it open there, and then I'm going to move on to the next one. I do learn, I think after this one, I do learn that it's just better to come in and cut it and then line them up, because they don't all cut that nicely. It is a new razor blade, so that does help, but you see here I'm going to come in, I'm going to just cut that in half, and then I'm going to lay the bottom piece down, and the top piece is going to match right on up. And now I can just lay my Mod Podge, spread it out there around the corners and the tops and the bottom. I can just lay my rice paper right on top of there, and I don't have to worry about trying to cut it. Now I went ahead and I did 2 boxes. I did the one with the purples and the blues, and then I am doing this one with the rose and the golds. Guys, they both turn out so pretty. You're gonna have to let me know which one is your favorite, because I just had a hard time making up my mind. I love them both, and for different reasons. So I went ahead and did the same thing here. These are images off of creativefabrica.com. I used my print to size on my tablet, and I uploaded those pictures into the print to size. I edited them to the size I wanted for these boxes, and then I was able to trim them out, and they fit perfectly on here. I'll open it for you. I went ahead and I painted the inside of that with those purple, blues, and pinks to match that beautiful dragonfly. And then on this side, I have the beautiful roses, and he's fired. And look at the inside of that one. Oh, I just think it turned out pretty. Joe, unclose it, silly. Okay, so my Vanna White's fired. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for joining me today with the few of my favorite flips over this past year here. And I am so glad that you were able to join me today. Don't forget to check out our collaborators in our description box below. All of the wonderful hostesses and the playlist will be linked there for you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification. It really helps my channel out, y'all, and I appreciate you. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.